The N word is a word that many people on the left avoid saying, avoid thinking about, and dislike. And it is actually the answer to all of these climate protests, global warming hysteria. If we want to fix climate change, it's simple. The N word will do it. And almost everyone's too scared. Some people have come around. Of course, I'm talking about nuclear power. It's the obvious solution. Wind and solar are pointless, completely pointless power sources. They use a lot of land. A lot of pollution is created making the windmills and solar panels. And when it's not windy and sunny, they don't produce any power. And it's not windy and sunny a lot. Wind turbines are only active about 15% of the time. At night time, obviously solar panels don't produce any power. When it's cloudy, they produce a massively reduced amount of power. In the winter, they produce a massively reduced amount of power unless you're near the equator. If you're in a monsoon climate, they produce less power then. They're very unreliable. What you need from a power source for base load is a reliable power source. Solar and wind are very unreliable. And they actually cause a lot of deaths. A lot of people get killed servicing wind farms. Virtually the safest power source is, and wind farms have killed billions of birds as well. So if you're into nature, not so good. And they're ugly. And they, as I say, they require a huge amount of land, as does solar. So if you go for wind and solar, you need something to back them up because they do not constantly produce power. There are no large-scale power source storage solutions now. Batteries cost a fortune. Again, they use all sorts of chemicals. Elon Musk is trying to be sweet here and doing some stuff that it's completely impractical to have large-scale power storage on a grid level. It's extremely expensive. The other option is gas. Well, that's a fossil fuel, and it means you need to build gas power stations to cover the electricity generated from your wind and solar. Again, very expensive, and it's a fossil fuel. It's completely impractical. And of course, as with many things environmentalists do, they're very impractical or very expensive. And so what would the result be? Much higher electricity prices. Who does it hurt the most? The poor. So they're punishing the poor. The obvious solution is nuclear power, which is extremely safe. And this is before we get close to thorium, liquid molten salt reactors, which are an even better technology, which produces almost no waste at all and is inherently safe. I suggest you Google that. So, the N word, nuclear power. This would solve, if countries just rolled this out, this would solve global warming. You have nuclear power generation and electric cars done. Let's move on to the next problem. Where is the push for nuclear power? It's very reliable. France is almost 100% nuclear. Its electricity prices are half that of Germany. Germany, stupidly, has decided to get rid of all its nuclear power stations. There's a trend in the West of getting rid of nuclear. It's stupid. It's the obvious solution, staring us in the face. Modern nuclear power stations with decommissioning factored in are the solution. And this is current technology. If we made a concerted effort to make it cheaper, more mass producible, and easier to install and easier to decommission, that would be an order of magnitude better. If you then put liquid molten salt thorium on top of that, which has inherent safety, that's even higher than current nuclear, that's even better. There's been virtually no nuclear accidents ever. Chernobyl didn't even have a containment vessel. It was done in communist Soviet Union, where we know communism pollutes massively. They don't care about safety. They don't care about human lives. The TV show Chernobyl exaggerated how serious that disaster could have been by about 1 million times. people in. Just look at the YouTube video, Chernobyl Busted, to see that. The reason they did that was because it made it look like they saved the world in Ukraine. They didn't. It just wasn't that serious, despite the fact there was not even a containment vessel. No nuclear power station would ever be built without a containment vessel in the West. And even since then, multiple more layers of security have been added on top. If you look at what happened in Japan, virtually nobody was affected by that. And again, there were levels of incompetence. Things were done which should never have been done. And yet still, almost nobody died. 30,000 people per year die of particulate breathing from coal power stations in the US. Every year, 30,000 people died. Can you imagine what the outcry would be if 30 people died from nuclear power every year, or 3,000? 10 times that many die every year in the US from pollution from coal-fired power stations. We have the solution. It's nuclear power. These people protesting, these people getting high on MDMA in the streets around the world for the mass extinction, it's bullshit. They should have placards that say nuclear power now. We want nuclear power. If they really cared about climate change, they would be pushing for nuclear extremely hard. They don't care. Most of them are communists. They want to bring in political systems that are undemocratic that we know don't work. Communism, hard socialism. We know they don't work. They always fail. They lead to misery, economic collapse, and not just rich people getting poor people getting poorer, life being shit, inefficiency, massive government. And again, look at Venezuela. Look at any country that's ever tried communism or socialism. They implode. And no, Scandinavia isn't particularly socialist. They're hard capitalist countries that tax a bit more. It's the only difference. So no, if any environmentalist is really an environmentalist, they should be pushing hard for nuclear. End of story. That solves global warming. It solves it instantly. So just any time you come across anyone talking about this stuff, so you what kind of nuclear power reactor do you like? Are you a thorium guy? Or ask them. And they're clueless. And again, said this so many times, the left is a house of cards built on double standards. And in this guy's case, it's built on just ignorance. Because we have the solution. It's easy. It's nuclear power. But because it has the N-word, it's scary, has the N-word, sounds a bit icky, they won't go for it. It's dumb.